Welcome to Adelaide City Talks, the podcast where we talk about all things City of Adelaide. My name is Henry Davis and I'm a councillor for the South Ward, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host. I'm very glad to have you back, Mary Kouros from the North Ward.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, we've missed you dearly. So in Adelaide City Talks, we talk about all things Adelaide. So whether you're a business owner, whether you're a local resident, or you're just interested in local government politics, I'm not sure why, but I find it interesting. Welcome to Adelaide City Talks for our next episode.
And we must also point out that these are our own personal views and not the views of the council.
That's right.
Yes.
So we've had a very interesting meeting on Tuesday night.
Yes, we did.
There was property damage, there was praying, and then there was a whole bunch of core substantive business that was we went through very quickly. Drama filled.
Yes.
Where would you like to start?
So let's talk about that, Henry. Let's talk about the one that's been on everyone's mind and discussion this week, and that's the prayer.
The prayer, that's right.
But it's actually been in discussion for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Or more.
More. It's probably 9 months. So one of the first things that happened in this council was there was a motion to remove the prayer from the agenda, or there was talk about this. We had this massive response from our community.
Yes, that's right.
Hundreds. I blocked the account. There was an account sending us all these. I couldn't handle it anymore.
Yes.
Literally on my first month in Adelaide City Council, hundreds of these things coming through. And the Lord Mayor decided maybe we wouldn't push through this removal of the prayer. So she decided to compromise and just completely delete it from the agenda and never mention it again. That seemed like a fair compromise to her.
So what was happening for quite some time is that she paused to reflect. The prayer was part of our agenda for many years, and then she took it upon herself to say for us to reflect. Yeah. On the prayer.
And so there's actually specific wording in the agenda.
That's right.
And, I was new to council. There's a whole bunch of old portraits. It's kind of like being in Harry Potter land. I was just a bit amazed. Very nice carpet.
Yes.
So I was a bit taken aback by everything that was going on. But after a couple of months, I said, well, this is in our agenda. This is the wording we're supposed to be reading out. I'm gonna read it out because that's what's following the agenda is.
So in the process of all of that, we had Councillor Snape move a motion to include a pledge.
That's right.
But not a removal of the prayer.
Not a removal of the prayer. So it went to a committee. It came as a administration recommendation.
That's right.
Which I thought was very strange. First of all,
yes.
Why is the administration recommending that this is how we deal with things?
So the administration's recommendation was to include the prayer or a pledge.
That's right.
So from that, Councillor Snape amended to have the pledge, but he did not say remove all the prayer. Now, in that meeting, which was quite some time ago, I advised that we do not have the removal of the prayer as part of our motion. I even had a meeting before the council meeting advising governance that there is no removal of the prayer. So much as I support not to remove the prayer, I'm also one about process, and I really was fearing the fact that our governance and our processes is being tampered with, in my opinion, or we're not adhering to the processes that we've already set out
100%.
In our meeting agenda. So that was what's really was giving me fear more than anything else.
And it was very strange because the next time the agenda came out, because it was very clear that Snape's motion was to include a pledge. But the next agenda that came out said prayer/pledge and it deleted the words.
Because
and the administration were trying to give effect to it.
Yes.
And I said to the mayor, she apologized later in the committee workshop and said, I'm sorry, I didn't listen to what you were saying.
Yes.
You were telling me that there was no removal of the prayer and I was being helpful.
Yes.
Helpful Henry. That's all I aspire to be. Yes. I told her that it wasn't effective and she said, I should have listened to you at the time.
Yes.
Now we have to do it again.
Yes. So I have sent many emails to administration, to the CEO. Can you please point out where it says removal of the prayer? I still have not had a response to those emails. Anyway.
We did get an email saying very loosely that what you were saying was correct.
Very loosely. And that they're going to amend it in the code of practice. And which was really
how they could do that, I have no idea.
I don't know idea.
No.
It's all messy.
Very.
At the end of the day, realising that the prayer hasn't been removed, our processes have not been adhered to, we have to go back and amend the code of practice to remove the word the prayer, and it's a mess. Our governance is a mess, and it's scary.
So we came back with a motion.
Yeah.
So 9.2. So we went back to the committee. Then there was a clarification by Councillor Snape to remove the prayer. Now that was going to come in item 9. This is a bit fun for me. Okay, so meeting procedures. This is where we can talk about boring meeting procedures. But in item 9.2, there was going to be a motion from Councillor Snape to remove the prayer altogether. So our last Tuesday night meeting. Councillor Noon though had a motion to include a prayer and change the wording at 13.2.
That's right.
Now everyone was very quiet. No one was talking behind the scenes because they understood that if 9.2 went ahead, 13.2 becomes ultra vires and it can't be put.
That's right.
That means Councillor Noon's motion would have been shut down again for the second time when she's trying to move it. So there's a little bit of procedure. So I stood up and I said, no, I want to move to 13.2.
Yes.
And the Lord Mayor didn't want to have a bar of that.
No, you actually did the right thing. You seek leave of the meeting to vote to move to 13.2.
And she refused to do that.
And that is well within your rights. Now, again, this is what I'm concerned about, is that we're not following the procedures of our meetings. And in that response of no,
just no, I don't want to do it. I manage the meeting.
It doesn't work that way in local government. And so then you seek clarification from governance.
Yeah, so I went to the administration. I said, look,
in the meeting,
point of order, you've breached the meeting regulations.
Right.
I'm allowed to put this motion.
That's right.
Then I went to the governance and the governance didn't answer. It was actually the COO.
Yes.
It was the chief operating officer responded on behalf of governance.
Did you seek clarification from governance prior to the meeting if you are able to do that?
And
what was their response?
My response, what I understood was, yes, it's perfectly fine. That's how you do it.
Yes, exactly.
And I called early in the day. I didn't get a call back, but I saw governance later in the day, and that's what they confirmed to me. Now, the COO comes over the top of this and says, no, Councillor Davis, you can't do that. So there's another strange provision. It's called Provision 28. In the meeting regulations, that if the Lord Mayor makes a determination, so the Lord Mayor is not the king, she's not the queen, she's not Queen Adelaide. She doesn't have this kind of unlimited fettered power. She is accountable, just like the Speaker in state and federal parliaments, to the Parliament. The Parliament can enforce the standing orders and they can override what the Speaker says. And in this case, I was saying I want a vote to overrule her determination that I couldn't move to 13.2 because she knew that if we went to 13.2, then that motion could have been successful. She didn't want to do that. And so there is a provision called 28, which is a point of order. She makes a point of order. I say I want to challenge it. It then goes to a vote of the chamber. And if the chamber says, hey, Lord Mayor, we don't agree with you, her ruling gets knocked out and then we do what I want to do. The governance, apparently, that's not a thing that they wanted to follow. And so afterwards, I actually went to the governance and I had the provision, the regulation up on my computer, and I wanted to show the COO who'd come in over the administration. My laptop then ended up on the ground, smashed. Shortly after that, I went back to my desk and I was in a complete kerfuffle after that for quite some time.
Bring up the agenda. You couldn't.
My computer was broken after that interaction. So I then eventually recovered, and then we did eventually go to 13. Well, the Lord Mayor let it go to 13.2, and can I say that was one of the most interesting times in the chamber because the shock that the vote was successful was audible.
So just so everyone can understand, whoever wants to tune into City of Adelaide matters, why is all this important and why just get on and do the job? But that's what we're doing. We are doing the job. And everything has got a procedure attached to it in order to ensure that we arrive at the decisions clearly for ratepayers to understand how these decisions are made. If we don't have these procedures, it's virtually everyone doing whatever they want to do.
And the administration are meant to be the umpires. It's like playing soccer, If you can't, do a forward pass and,
Yeah, and that's what governance is there for. Yeah. Governance is there to make sure that we are adhering to the meeting regulations. So to me,
I was saying there was an offside. There's an offside rule and umpire, please call it. And they went, no, I don't feel like it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
I was outraged by that.
So in the end, amongst all of this drama, it was moved and the motion was moved first before we got to the item under the Code of Practice, which in turn made what happened then, Henry? I'm sure you're delighted to tell our listeners.
Gasps. Now, there's no faction according to Peter Gers.
According to Peter Gers.
But apparently someone was very confident about how the vote was going to go. So the Deputy Lord Mayor turns to me and said, what? Was that passed? And I went, yeah, we're going to move to item 13.2. He's like, what? No. And then he
The
looked
Deputy
around.
Lord Mayor,
Deputy
me
Lord
and
Mayor.
Councillor Martin.
Deputy Lord Mayor Martin
Yes.
was sitting next to me going, what? What do you mean we're moving to that? No.
Yes.
And the Lord Mayor was grinning at me at the same time going, all right, let me put your motion. Let me get leave of the meeting. Whatever, Councillor Davis, you're wasting my time yet again.
Yes.
And then it passed. And all of a
Yes.
sudden, their faces changed.
Yes.
And I said, I might have the numbers for this. I might have the
Yes.
support. And they looked on with horror as then Councillor Noon got to then move her motion.
Yes.
And it was supported by a majority of council. And
Yes.
Councillor Jingley supported the motion in the end, which meant that the vote was 6-4, which meant that we then have a majority on the floor. So there's only 11 councillors on the floor and 6 gives you a majority. And so now this issue is done. It's dusted. The prayer is here to stay.
Do you know, it's really funny because you talk about factions. I'm watching because the opposite side of me, I've got Councillor Snape, and next to me, I've got Councillor Jingley. And I'm watching Councillor Snape mouth to Jingley, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Well, did you see him instruct Carmel to vote?
Yes.
He said, Carmel, put your hand up, and then motioned to her. But apparently, see, this is why I say Snape is the faction leader. He controls that council.
Well, I'm trying to work out, is the faction leader Councillor Snape, or is he just the vocal one, and the one sitting behind him is the Deputy Lord Mayor Councillor Martin? I don't know.
They make a great team either way.
Definitely there is a faction. So Peter Gers,
Very
I can
wrong.
challenge that for you because it's very clear that there is a faction in town.
Yeah. So last night, Peter Gers, I was on radio, and he was accusing Carmel and I of detract, because they made this big song and dance at the council chamber that we were detracting from the business of council. And I made it very clear to Peter that it was the Lord Mayor's decision to stop reading out the prayer at the start of the year without a motion from council. This falls solely on the Lord Mayor's head. And then yesterday I saw on her Instagram that she was trying to say that she never wanted to partake in this. This is all rubbish and we should be focusing on business. Yeah. And all these councillors, David Elliott, he got up and said, we should be focusing on core business. I'm like, this was your fault. You started this. You wanted to get involved in it.
It was messy from the start.
Isn't it funny how they spin?
It's very, very funny. And as for Peter Gers, well, he's big fans of Councillor Martin, ex-Councillor Moran
and
as
Jane.
Well. And Jane. So I think his opinions are very biased.
I said to him, you are being biased. He was on the radio flat out attacking Carmel and I, trying to accuse us, trying to get the Lord Mayor out of the firing line. But this is all her fault. She started this. She started the fire. Now it's been resolved. And now the council can go back
It's really
without.
sad that we don't have any more, media being absolutely just neutral and reporting on the truth, and media from personalities on radio to in daily to I don't even know where the advertiser is these days.
I would love to read an article on the operation of Section 28 of the meeting regulations in detail. Full front page spread.
You may want to, but
I would buy that paper.
Generally, the ratepayers are going, "What are you arguing about? Just get on
Section
to
28,
your
come on.
business of work." And we did. We always do get on our core, go straight to core business, and those. Core
we
business,
do it.
Well, we do.
We read the long-time financial plan. We're looking at the you talk. You're the only one who remembered that we had an application or a submission for the homelessness.
Yes.
Well, you went and spoke about it. Everyone else was forgetting about all the important things.
Yeah, well, that was that. We did put a submission for regarding the National Housing and Homelessness Plan. Issues paper submission was one of our first items. Luckily, in the recommendation, we've got authorised the Lord Mayor and Chief Executive Officer to make any minor amendments. And the amendments...
I don't like these words now because minor amendments seem to be, let's just restructure the entire agenda however we feel like it. Anyway, sorry.
Well, I use that opportunity.
I'm starting to get jaded.
Well, I use the opportunity to talk about, it's a great report, but I think there's a lot of key things missing.
Yeah.
And
there was
hopefully that gets heard, but we didn't really focus on a lot of mental health issues that are out in the streets, domestic violence issues, the youth. There's a high rise of youth living on the streets.
It was very much about what council is doing to provide more housing.
It is. It was, and
It's
housing,
not necessarily our core.
But
job.
Housing is an issue.
Yeah.
We do have a housing crisis. We can't ignore that. But there's a lot of we have a particular a person that lives on the streets of North Adelaide. I'll give him a name. His name is Nick. Everyone knows him in North Adelaide, and he's always living on our street. He has a home to go to, but he hasn't got the capabilities to live in that home. He needs support. He feels more comfortable being out in the street. And I'm sure Nick is not the only one, and he needs the help. Are we centering our thoughts in regards to the needs of the public that are on the streets?
I've been really thinking about this. I would like to continue in politics. I think it's a really important job to do. But what I think we need to have as a nation is a minimum standard. As every single individual, what it means to be an Australian, you get this minimum standard. And it means you have food, it means you have a right to education, it means you can get places with free public transport, it means you have a roof over your head, and it means you have clothing and this amount of money. And we should enshrine that essentially and say, this is our guarantee, or our minimum standard guarantee for what it is for every Australian. That's how we're going to treat our citizens. And I think that would make it very clear and unquestioning that if we don't meet that standard, if Nick can't live in his own home because he can't afford the electricity or the water,
or he has the capabilities to do so. He hasn't got the mental health capabilities to be able to live at home. We get up.
That should be taken care of.
In the morning. We have a shower. We get ready for our day. We check what we're doing. We have that ability, but poor Nick doesn't. And he always finds himself on the streets because he doesn't feel safe in the home. He feels safe on the streets. He's not the only one. We have women that are living on the streets due to domestic violence. We have, like I said, an increase of youth living on the streets. Why? What's happening at home? The list goes on. And I felt that the report, although very good, although focusing a lot on housing, which we do have a housing crisis, we do have a lot of elements that actually that the public needs support, that are finding it very difficult 100%. And needing to live on the street. So thank you for bringing that up. But
and you're the only one to mention it and to realise that might be something that's important to talk about.
Might be.
Kudos to you.
Thank you. We also had from our committee the recommendations from the City Finance Committee and long-term financial plan.
I've been banging on that. This is what I want to talk. This is front page news. All right. So get excited. We'll get, we should be really concerned about our long-term financial plan.
Why is that? Why do you think?
Well, so this document sets out a 10-year budget. So the state government does a 4-year budget. Councils have a much higher obligation to set out a 10-year budget, what it's going to look like. And the reason why we do that is we're going to have spending every year of new capital infrastructure. Yes. And what we need to do as a council is to set out interest rates or our rates for our residents, and we need to give them a long-term view of what it means to live in the city of Adelaide. Yeah. So if you're a business owner, we're going to increase your council rates by 3% per year. That's actually the current assumption. Yeah. But if we do that, at the moment, we are going to end up with $225 million worth of debt. $225 million worth of debt. Now, at 5% interest rate, that's $10 million a year just in interest. So when you look at what happens over the next 10 years, there is no recovery for debt. It plows straight down. It goes straight into the negative, and there is no sustainability in it. Now, I went back in the committee and I said, this is not good. This is not something that we can just accept. We need to be thinking about what is going to be the increase in council rates and be honest and open with our public, saying, you know what, you're going to get a 7% increase in rates every year for the next 10 years. That's what it's going to cost. And then that's what it's going to cost to return to zero in 10 years' time. So I'm extremely concerned about it. And apparently everyone just says, well, that's what it's supposed to be. And I'm like, well, no.
Well, you know how they get to that 3%. It's worked out from a report.
It's meant to be from CPI.
From CPI. Yeah.
Right. And the reality is that we can't stick with CPI.
CPI is what at the moment? Do we know?
It's higher than that.
It is.
So back in the March quarter,
it was 7
of last year. It was about 7%.
Yeah.
And what they do is they're trying to project it. Now I have a real issue with CPI and LGPI. This is more nerdy stuff that I love to talk about. Yes. Doesn't make the headline news, unfortunately. I would love for there be a centerfold, with me. Councillor Davis slams the use of CPI versus LGPI, and we can go through the model and the whatever it is. But basically, LGPI, its inputs are asphalt, employee costs, sand, things like that. Whereas CPI is apples and bananas and rent. So those two things are very different for council and for the general public, and we should be using this rather than that.
So at the end of the day, Henry, what you're saying is that the long-term financial plan, which was passed, what isn't a true and accurate assessment of what
it could be. See, this is the scary thing.
But you feel that one that we passed is not.
Oh, no, I'm saying that if this is what we're passing, we are screwed. And if you are a resident, you should be writing a very sternly worded letter. That's about as much as you're going to do, right? Don't storm town hall. I'll get in trouble getting indicted for that. But if you were a resident and you're looking at the long-term financial plan, looking at $225 million worth of debt, no abatement, you've got to think to yourself, hold on a second. This thing just continues to go into the red. Who's going to have to pay for this? Well, it's going to be me. I'm going to have to pay for this. You should question the assumptions that are made in that long-term financial plan of a 3% rate increase. It's bollocks, to be quite honest. It is not going to happen. It's going to be more like 7 or 8%. And I've asked the administration to calculate what it would be so that we return to surplus in 10 years' time, and we actually have a debt that's actually returning to a neutral position. And that's what we should be doing as a responsible government. We're not the state government. We can't just borrow money from the Reserve Bank endlessly. We actually have a prudential borrowing limit. So the issue is that our prudential borrowing limit increases over time as the assets that we acquire. That's another centerfold in the advertiser, I'm sure. But our debt ceiling basically follows along with our prudential borrowing limit, which means that if anything goes wrong in the city of Adelaide, we have no money to spend on it, and we are basically maxed out on our credit card. And that is not a good position to be confidently walking into the next 10 years with, and that gives me massive concern.
And we do have concerns for some major infrastructure work.
Don't even get me started on main streets.
We're talking about we've got the main streets, which we're all talking about, but we also got the Weir, we also got the bridge, and we also got the U Park on Rundle Street, which was funny enough that what was in the media yesterday, I think in Daily, I think the Deputy Lord Mayor came out saying we can do wonderful things with the U Park, and we can go out and we can do a joint venture and develop and take
I'm glad he gave me credit for that.
Well, it's just interesting. It's a policy that we set last term of council, Henry. Is why we've got the strategic property reviews in which why we've got the Future Fund and why we've identified as U Park really the U Park in Rundle Street needing to be a joint venture operation. And I think it was Sandy Vashaw's election campaign that the city needs a concert hall. So, I mean, they're not fresh, they're not new ideas. There are new ideas that we have been hashing.
So where's the concert hall going to come from? Ever? In the next 10 years?
Well, the concert hall, he's saying, should be built on the Rundle Street
With what
U
money?
Park. Well,
with what money? We're hitting our prudential borrowing. And this is the real issue that I have with the Greens running council, is because they're very good at making great policy that sounds good on much better than Section 28 of the regulations. Look, I give them that. It is much more interesting than looking at the detail of it. But look, I'm doing I've been the chairman of the property trust on North Terrace, which is looking at building a 183 metre tall tower.
Yes.
I understand what it is to develop these sites to deliver that. Councillor Snape and Councillor Mutton do not have that experience. Okay, I've been living and breathing this project for the last year. I understand the development. I understand how we can actually give a lot back. And now that's the issue with the factions, is that you just lock out all of your talent. You lock out all of your business owners and people who understand property, and people like Councillor Abrahimzadeh, who is very connected in the charity space and with his community. And you just lock out all these people so that they can get the numbers.
Yeah, that's right.
And all this talent for the City of Adelaide is just being wasted.
Well, I don't know how the City of Adelaide will pay for a concert hall, but there are other ways that you can get maximum benefit out of that site. And there are other ways that we could actually work towards to ensuring that we can have support for the Weir and the bridge from the state government.
I'm feeling weary.
But we've still got to get those main streets done, Henry.
Oh, yeah. So it's $145 million we need for these main streets. 2 hours before the draft budget was approved, we had a motion to spend $45 million on the main streets. Yeah. We'd gone out to consultation on all of these main streets. We'd said, this is what we want to deliver for the City of Adelaide, $145 million worth of spending. Yeah. And it got slashed to $45 million with no consultation with the residents, no understanding of what was being cut from these proposals. I mean, this is a capital city council. It's in desperate need. It's in dire need. And you know what? The Lord Mayor mentioned at a workshop that, hey, King William Street needs a bit of love. The King William needs a little bit of love. Next budget, you know what happened? $33 million spent on King William Street. I'm like, where the
But she didn't go through.
Where did that come from?
Let's all be fair here. I mean, it didn't get voted in.
No.
But it's kind of
But
like...
where did the administration pull $33 million from a single comment from the Lord Mayor? That is not how this is supposed to work.
I don't know.
She's not the Premier.
No.
She's not in Cabinet.
No.
I am not the Minister for Praying.
No.
Or maybe I am. She runs this like her cabinet, and that's not how this works. She is the Speaker of the House, and we are the Parliament.
Yeah.
And we have different views. It's not her job to ram these things through. And this is my real issue. I've spoken to the administration about this. I'm very concerned that they think she has a lot more powers than she really does. And do you know how many powers she has? Nothing. She has 2 jobs: kiss babies, chair the meeting. That's all. That's all you need to do, Lord Mayor, and your Instagram page looks great.
It does.
Do that.
Her Instagram page
looks fantastic.
Awesome. I mean,
much better than mine.
I think
do that.
It's great work.
Yeah, she's not the
I'm
Premier.
jealous, actually.
Yeah.
I've got to get that person doing my Instagram account. It's great.
Yeah.
Look, there was a lot of things that we did achieve in the chamber.
Aquatic Centre.
It's sad that doesn't get a discussion in the media. I do strongly suggest to ratepayers to actually go on and have a look at these documents and what's passed in council. You're not getting the information from the media at the moment. It's only one view from In Daily at the moment, and I'm sad to see that the Advertiser is not writing. Oh no, they are writing about Anne Moran selling her house.
That's very important.
That's really
but
important.
Not section 28 of the meeting. It's a travesty.
Well, hopefully.
What are the media thinking?
She's
moving into my ward.
I know.
Yeah, so I will now be responsible for Anne Moran.
And
I will be her fearless leader.
That's excellent for you.
Welcome, Anne Moran, if you're watching. I'm sure you are, to the South Ward of Adelaide City Council. If you need anything, feel free to ask Councillor Snape, or Councillor Mark Siebentreut, or myself.
Yes.
Always happy to take a call.
Times ahead.
Yes.
Well, that wraps up our meeting that we had on September the 26th. Can
I say one more thing? The Aquatic Centre.
Oh.
So I know, this might cause a little bit of tension between us, but I do want to say that the state government has recently purchased a whole bunch of land near the brewery, and they're planning to put 1,000 houses.
Side note, we did not discuss this on the meeting on the 26th.
No, we didn't.
So
no, we didn't.
This is
it's brand new.
Side note.
This is a Henry idea. This is a Henry policy, right? So the state government has purchased 1,000, or they're going to construct 1,000 homes on this brownfield site just outside of the city. Now, it makes a lot of sense to me that the Aquatic Centre could be moved in the middle of that precinct with now not 1,000, but say 980 homes sitting around it, using a massive community facility, and we can restore the current aquatic site to its former glory. And the people who currently use the pool can continue to use the pool during the construction. They could build it there. We can have the pool open. It's a win-win. Return to parklands and just shift it a little bit to the left.
I'm not disputing
that's my plan.
I'm not disputing that that's not a good idea, but it's just not going to happen. The election promise is to build a new aquatic centre on Park 2. They are going to follow through with that. The Premier was very clear.
Maybe we could sign a deed of indemnity and release. What if the residents of the North Adelaide residents say, we're going to release you from your promise?
The Member of Parliament, Lucy Hood.
Why does Lucy want this?
It's because it was an election promise. They are ticking off on their election promises. They're not going to veer from them.
Look, I'm happy to. I'm a tax lawyer. I'm a specialist in tax law. I'm happy to put together a deed of indemnity and release to release the Premier from his election promise.
Yeah, well, I
do it in the proper way.
I don't think that's going to happen.
By popular demand.
I think that's going to be It's going to be.
I've always come out sadder from these things.
Look, hey, and these ideas
all this
are
hope
great.
that I had with Mary. So realistic.
These ideas are great, but at the end of the day, they're not our control.
Since when do you want to count? When do you want the government to keep their election promises?
Why don't you move a motion, Henry?
I'm going to write them a letter.
Well, why don't you move a motion?
And could you play? And I want to say, could you please, this is mandatory wording. Could you please consider moving the aquatic centre over here?
Yeah, well, I'd be very surprised if they take that into consideration.
Even if it was from me?
Maybe.
Very nice.
Please.
Please. That would be the subject heading.
With a cherry on top?
Yes. Please. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to say the subject heading for this letter will be please.
I beg you.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps everything up.
Great. All good.
Chat.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mary. Glad to have you back.
And after our next meeting.
I'll see you next Tuesday.
Couple of weeks. Okay. Thanks.
Bye.